At least you didn't burn it like you normally do.
Everyone's a fucking comedian. Sayonara. I know these things are awkward. You take these disputes out of the playground and all of a sudden they end up on your doorstep. Now listen, I'm a bit sick of a big pissed off fire-breathing reptile coming round knocking on our door. Is Kong coming out? I've got to sort him out. No, look, if you've got problems with Godzilla, then you sort it, man. Sort it. You're the king. It's in your name. You're King Kong. Don't listen to some stupid spiny-backed bloody amphibious swine from Japan telling you that he's king of the monsters. You're king of the monsters. Just go out there and show him. Come on now, let's have some of that. Hey, folks. Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man. Your services. How are you all? You're doing very, very well. Right, so you saw a little intro with my man here. My man. The man of many people's dreams, but the man of most people's nightmares. Freddy Krueger. Yes, Robert Englund. Now, that is a mask that I have shown you before. I've discussed Nightmare on Elm Street, one of my favourite horror movies of all time. A good couple of times before, I've discussed Charles Bernstein's awesome soundtrack, which is playing right now. And I've discussed that mask, and I think I've reviewed the movie itself anyway. But suddenly, I don't know what it was. After a feverish night of hideous dreams, I woke up smitten with this guy, and I thought, I've got that old Ruby's official Nightmare on Elm Street mask, haven't I? But I was never too happy with it, was I? Ooh. So, let's get that little bag of my daughter's Sharpie pens out and go to work on it. And as I've said to you before, when I've shown you other masks during various tutorials, the Michael Myers strode damage mask, which I created. The American Werewolf in London, Kessler Wolf, the big werewolf mask, which I worked on with Sharpies, and other masks, which have definitely benefited from the kilted hand. I would say. I thought, sod it! I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to town on Mr. Krueger. Because although that mask is great, and I've said it before, there are a gazillion masks for Freddy Krueger. And you've got those sort of like wetsuit ones where they adhere to your face and you can like, is it Greylands, I think, make them. Should have checked that before I did a video, shouldn't I? But anyway, they do them and they are pretty good, but they're quite expensive as well. And I've heard a lot of dubious things about people who are selling them. So, you know, I've not committed. I've not got one yet, but anyway. But that is the Ruby's one, which came out for the original Nightmare on Elm Street. The original Wes Craven movie, the first one, because he transformed throughout the next series of movies. His look changed. And most of the masks, most of the merchandise, most of everything you get for Freddy Krueger is based on what happened from part 2, Freddy's Revenge, onwards. And that was a different look. He became more of a witch, more of an ogre. His nose became more pointed. But most of the masks which purport to be from the first movie genuinely aren't, because they do not look like Robert Englund. Now, right now, the way that's looking right now, in this light and where he is, that doesn't look too much like Robert Englund. But trust me, it does. If you go back in the previous video where you see how this thing originally looked, then you'll know that that does have a look of Robert Englund, who plays Freddy Krueger. And, you know, it really is one of the rare ones that does have that profile, the nose, his face, whereas later versions, there'd be more elaborate prosthetics on him. And that's what I'm coming to, folks. It's the prosthetics, it's the makeup itself. The original movie, the makeup was done by David Miller. And David Miller did Nightmare on Elm Street. He would do, I think, what I've written down here, part 4. And I think he did New Nightmare as well. And of course, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the whole thing took on a whole new aspect. I mean, he was in the real world. He was a spirit which had used the Freddy Krueger fictional character in the movies to come back and wreak havoc. And so you had Wes Craven playing himself, Heather Langenkamp playing herself, you know, and you had all these people, Robert Englund playing himself, but Freddy came back, and Freddy was much more, he was more of a physical threat. Robert Englund still played him, even though he was playing himself as well, but in a big padded out muscle suit with a slightly modified costume, and his face was different. It was better prosthetics without a doubt, but the gloves, they were fingerknives on both hands, and the knives came out of his fingers. They weren't gloves, it was just part of him. It was kind of like, more like a David Cronenberg, Videodrome, Existence sort of biomechanical, biochemistry sort of biological thing, where he's blended with the steel and the claws into his own flesh. And it was a great look. But I love the first look. I love the first movie by far. Now, I'm wearing Freddy's jersey, but of course, those of you who are acolytes of old Mr. Krueger will know that the first movie, he did not have green stripes on the sleeves. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Go back and watch it again. But in all the movies from that point onwards, they added the green stripes on the sleeves. So, and to be honest, I kind of prefer that. So, what are you going to... This video is now going to be me saying, I love this, I don't like that, I love this. I've now changed this a lot because I wanted to. But just bear with me, hear me out. The thing about like burn victims in movies, and well, as depicted in movies, is that they're not very convincing. Burn victims in real life, and you know, I really don't mean to be disparaging about anything, the horrific wounds, but movies always try to reflect this, the realism, but they don't really when it comes down to it. They go, especially in that first movie, what did he look like? He looked like a bloody, oh God, pepperoni pizza. That's all he looked like. And that's not a convincing, that's not a realistic burn victim. Freddy Krueger is a man that went through 3rd and 4th degree burns. They burnt all the way through his skin. Now when that happens, the flesh melts and it runs. You lose all your features. They will all be gone. Only through reconstructive surgery, plastic surgery, skin grafts are you going to get any semblance of a face back. You're just not going to get it otherwise. The ears melt, the extremities, the nose melts, the eyeballs pop, everything goes. The lips will burn back, the ligaments will be on show, and the face contorts. The most realistic makeup that I've seen for a burn victim, a full burn victim, is from Tom Savini. I've discussed it before because Tom Savini, yes, we know, did a big video on him only recently. The great demigod of gore, the sultan of carnage and slaughter, ran his own bicycle, sorry, not motorbike, into an oncoming car, purely by accident. And he smashed the windscreen and he ended up looking like one of his own best special effects. And he was in a pretty bad way, to be honest, but last I heard, he's doing well. So, come on, Tom. Come on, we're all counting on you. But he devised the makeup effects during his long reign at the top of the league for gore practical effects. From Friday the 13th and Dawn of the Dead, through Maniac and The Prowler, to Day of the Dead and Creepshow and all that. But he did The Burning. And The Burning's one of the best slasher movies.
No running in the hallway.
I wasn't. I'm just sitting here. God, Freddy. But and his makeup for that, because Tom Savini was a combat photographer in Vietnam. He did his tour of Vietnam and he photographed the battles, the carnage. He took military pictures for intelligence and for journalistic purposes too. And he also studied forensic science and pathology, and for The Burning he visited certain burn units, burn wards, for people who had suffered really major, burn injuries. So when he created Cropsy the Maniac from The Burning, he was modelling it on what he'd seen. And Cropsy's face, he had an actor, I forget the actor's name now, who had an upturned nose anyway. Because what happens when you burn, it all peels back, so the nose would become upturned as well. Everything, the sinews disintegrate, everything gets shrunken and pulled back. Obviously, the longer you're ablaze, the less of you there's going to be. But he saw what burn victims look like. So for the burning, that is the most realistic. That prosthetic, the guy's nose was already turned up, as I say, but he then used wires to pull the nose back even further. And he had a lopsided face, bloated, burnt out lips, and the face had collapsed on one side and was just a dissolved mess on the other. And it was all the colours of the rainbow. And that's what happens as well. There's so much more going on. You will get charcoaled, you will get barbecued, flambéed. There'll be red, there'll be pink, there'll be oranges, there'll be all sorts of colours in there. What a topic. Kilt-Man, you really, really know how to entertain people, don't you? But, so when David Miller did the effects for Nightmare on Elm Street, he didn't really apply a realistic look because Freddy would have no features left. There'd be nothing left. Now, no, it's his dream world. He can look whatever he can look the way he wants to look. He can become other people, as he does. Nancy, no running in the hallways. I mean, he becomes one of the I don't know, the prefects in the high school and all that. So he can become other people, you know, and change faces. Of course he can. He's a master of dreams, isn't he? But his look is, he is a burn victim. That's the look they come out with. Not as dark as that. It's that pepperoni pizza look, which I'll show you, because let's take his little fedora off for a second here. Because what I've done, I've left the back of this pretty much how it was to begin with. I have elaborated slightly. That's a work in progress. You can see I really haven't done much. They're just templates really. But you can see all these patches here, these craters. Yeah. Burns can look like they'll be depressed. The skin will come back. The skin will, be gone and recessed, and it'll be sunken and a bit of a dribbly mess. It will then encrust over. But it's not going to look like that. It isn't going to do that. It's going to be a horrifically burnt visage. That nose, and Robert Englund looks like a gnome, a troll, some kind of imp anyway. But that nose would have gone. All of this would have gone. The face would have sunk completely. He'd be nothing. Just a Cropsy-like twisted dessert. A terribly overcooked, overbaked souffle. But, you know, the look is iconic, and I'm not going to argue with that. Robert Englund's visage, his profile, his face, his voice, everything about his capturing of Freddy Krueger is iconic and superlative. So you can't go wrong with that, which is why he's the guy that's carried on with it. We won't even talk about the friggin' remake, Platinum Dunes. Oh. Well, we might do, because, truth be told, the makeup there is actually a bit more convincing for a burn victim. But the film's shit, so let's not go on to that. But David Miller did a wondrous job of creating a hideous demon for nightmares, and that's what you got. Now, this mask looked like that all the way around. It was this. I've added those bits there, but they're going to be blended in. They're just a template really. But basically, these little bits of pepperoni and the cheese and all that was there. But as the films would go on, he would have more of an elaborate prosthetic on his face. Who did the next one? It would be... oh, God, who did the next one? Robert Katzman. Robert Katzman would do Freddy's Revenge, and he'd do several others. But Robert Katzman is the K from KNB, the KNB Special Effects Group, which is Robert Katzman, Howard Berger, and Greg Nicotero. Greg Nicotero, who'd worked with George Romero on Day of the Dead and many other movies, would be the makeup supremo on The Walking Dead, but worked on a lot of movies throughout the 80s and the 90s and that. So a great makeup guy. But it was, as I say, Robert Kurtzman who did what became the standard look, the more hook-nosed look, the more witch-like, you know, cackling sort of, you know, really archetypal demon, fire demon look that Freddy would adopt from part 2 onwards. And that was not what David Miller did. And when he returned for, I think was it Dream Warriors? No, that was part 3. What was part 4? Dream Master, whatever it was. He went back again and revamped his original makeup and changed it round again. But it's never looked like a real burn victim. Never. It just never has. It's always been this kind of demonic variation. So what I've done here, you can plainly see, because that's what it was, that's what it is. I have darkened up many elements to give it some depth in all these crevices. I have charcoaled one of the ears, that one, because one of the ears is more burnt than the other ones. I have just enhanced and highlighted all the colours, you know, completely, and I've given it more. I mean, you can see what you didn't have was this stretched sinew type look, and I've gone on about that a lot with lots of other masks, particularly the likes of the Darkman mask, Liam Neeson for Sam Raimi's Darkman, and I got the mask of that, and I did a video on it recently, and it has the great stretched sinews. Well, I've worked on that mask as well. If it was here right now, I'd show you, but it isn't. Damn it. But they, at least on the sculpt, got the stretched sinews of someone whose face has been completely torn away. Now in his case, it's acid and chemicals, it's not fire. Although he does get blown up as well. So it's the whole bloody shebang, literally. But in his case, it is just fire immolation. But he would be completely remolded. There'd be nothing left of him, to be honest. But I have tried to do what you've seen in some other masks. I have enhanced all this black. None of this black was there. None. There was no black on this mask. None whatsoever. So I put all the dark elements in there. And I've used a variety of Sharpies, even a black biro, to give it some sort of shine and some sheen to it. I've used a variety of reds, Sharpies again to go over it, and you know you can see the delineation there where that's what I've done, and I left it deliberately like that so you could see what the back was like. I mean, you could go back to the previous video and see how the entire face looked, and it didn't look like that. And I know some Freddy purists are gonna go, oh, but he didn't look like that. He didn't look in the movie. He did not look like that. That's Kilt-Man. That's too damn realistic. I know, and it's because I just wanted to see what I could do. I've never been happy, although I love the look. I do love Freddy's look. Of course I do. It's iconic, and you know that is Freddy. But I just wanted to have a go and see if I could give it a bit more of a satanic burnt visage, without clawing any of the mask away, because obviously you'd have to, if you're going to make it totally realistic, all this would be gone. It'd just be a smudge. Just be a smudge. That's it. But I thought colour-wise, and I want to keep the distinctive Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund look, which you've still got there. Let's put his fedora on. Oh, by the way, folks, you can get a multitude of Freddy Krueger fedoras, but I would recommend getting the battered one here, which I have, which is scratched, ripped, scorched. I mean, obviously, if that had been in the fire, there'd be none of it left, but it's all part of the look, isn't it? But most of the ones you get, they're nice and pristine. Well, it wouldn't look like that, would it? But, so there you go, there's Freddy. I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. Brilliant. Robert Englund is just born to play this role. So there you go. But and you can see there the scorch marks, burns, the scuffs and dirt on it. And it's ripped. It's almost like Ben Gardner's boat, as Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider discovered it out at sea, barely sitting on top of the ocean. And there's a great, as the spotlight pans across it, you see a bite mark out of the side. And that could be the shark tooth there. I don't know. I'm combining genres here, but I think that looks great. There's a livid quality to it. Because what I've done to make this shine, well, there's another process. Those of you that remember me doing the Michael Myers Strode Damage mask, which is the Halloween 2018 mask, but with the bullet hole through the cheek, it's torn away, it's bloodied. And that's a great mask. I mean, I love the 2018 look, the aged quality to that mask anyway. And I've got the ordinary one, and then I got that one, but I got it purely because I thought, I'm going to base that on what I think, what I'm foretelling is going to be in Halloween Kills. Yes, over a year and a half later, I'm still saying what the Halloween Kills mask might look like because we haven't fucking seen it yet. Because COVID, the biggest bogeyman of all time, is still running rampant. So this bloody film is not coming out till October 2021. At the moment, the time of this recording, it's only April 2021. I just hope I live long enough to see the final part of the new Halloween trilogy. But unless the alien invasion takes over, fucking hell, you know, whatever else is going to befall this stupid planet. Oh, I know. Get off my high horse. I know. So I used ash from our own fire pit there to burn it, scold it, because Michael Myers in the end of Halloween 2018 gets totally, ablaze, but he will escape and kill all the fire and rescue crew that get there to the Strode abode, and but his mask will be damaged. Whether he keeps that mask or whether it just stays damaged, which I hope, remains to be seen. But I thought, well, okay, well, it's going to be, you've got the bullet blast through the face there. You've got damage to it anyway. It's an aged mask, but it's going to be burnt down one side. Now, I did a big video on it and I showed you how I did it. And I was doing it during a blizzard at the same time. Go figure. And but with our fire pit, I was using all the ash and I was smearing it all over it. And I was gluing some of the ash and I was spraying some of it in to keep it lacquered in there. And it looks amazing. Well, you've seen the video. It looks really, really good. Well, the same sort of thing I did with this, but not to any of the same degree. Even though he's obviously burnt more than Michael Myers would have been. But I went to the fire pit and I just got scoop handfuls of ash, soot, and just smeared it over just this side of the mask, the front, the face of the mask, which has given it an overall darker cast. But you probably aren't picking it up, but there are little flakes in there as well, which is just, I mean, I can see it, I know it's there, and I could be more elaborate, I could work more on it, but this is the thing about going too far with masks. Some of you are going to say, well, you've already gone too far, you've ruined that. Well, that's up to you. I don't think I have. I think it looks infinitely better than it did look. As much as I do admire and like that, well, I don't like it, I think it looks stupid. It's a pepperoni fucking pizza, and a burn victim does not look like that. And in the movie, the first movie, he's in shadow most of the time, so he looks darker. But all I've done is accentuate the depth of the craters and the ripped up flesh, and I've enhanced this bit, that bit, and I've made it glisten. Have I made it glisten? I put all that soot all over it to darken it, and then to give it a bit of a gleam, hairspray. Yeah, hairspray. How easy is that? You can use many things. I mean, there is like lacquer to put on latex masks anyway. I haven't got it. There's sort of a boot polish which you can put on, which will give it a bit of a shine. I've got that, just haven't used it. But I have discovered that just spraying hairspray onto one of these, it will dry, but the hairspray also lacquers in some of the things you've added to it. So, if you put ash or, I don't know, a bit of bubble wrap or wounding, whatever you've done, whatever you've added to it, you can super glue it, but you can also, hairspray will stick it in as well. And that was a great trick I learned with my McCready G1 flight jacket from The Thing, which is an exact copy of the jacket that Kurt Russell wore. It's a very common jacket anyway, but when I cosplay as McCready, because I've got the entire costume, I put talcum powder all over it, and then hairspray it in, so it looks like you've just come in from a blizzard. And boy, does it look effective. It looks amazing. And how simple is that? Talcum powder and hairspray. Job done. But can you hear the birds out there? Kong, they're taunting you. If you listen, they're saying, Godzilla kicked your ass. Don't get me drawn into this Godzilla monsterverse bullshit. King Kong should never have been involved in that. The Toho Studios were going to do Godzilla meets Frankenstein, because they had a great big fucking giant Frankenstein's monster in theirs. And that was meant to be the case. But no, in the end, that got chopped and changed, and they drafted in Kong for the Toho movies. Kong's not from the same fucking thing. Kong's awesome. He is king. That's his name, King Kong. He's not gonna get beaten by that fucking fire-breathing twat, you know, that just destroys model cities. Bullshit. I'm going off topic again. Thank you. It's a good job you're here, sir. But so yeah, Godzilla vs Kong. Fuck off. Kong, King of the Monsters. Sorry, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Screw off. Kong Skull Island, by the way, and I'm a massive devotee of all things King Kong, but not that crap. I'd rather watch King Kong Lives. I'm joking, obviously. Anyway, so this hat, right? The hat, that it should be felt. A felt fedora. There is felt on this. I know, I felt it, but it's one of those. It's dead light and flimsy. Having said that, because you're buying the distressed one, that's still going to cost you more than most Freddy hats, but it's really good. Plus, you know, if you're going to go and cosplay as Indiana Jones, which I've done as well, because I've got all that gear, that's probably a more authentic fedora to wear than the ones that you get as Indiana Jones. If he goes through torture pits and traps and fighting Nazis and Russians and doing all sorts of thuggy cults, his hat is not going to remain pristine, is it? No, it's not. It's going to be battered and bashed and bruised and dented and scuffed and scolded. So when I say scolded, no offence to you, Freddy. Got to be careful. Got my fingers burnt there last time. But yeah, so that's super light, and you know, if you're doing cosplay, well, as you saw before, looks great. That mask is slightly larger than my head, and it's one of those things that I've been saying a lot lately, that many of the masks that came out in 2020 from Trick or Treats or Ghoulish, or whoever, they seem to have listened to a lot of the people who are buying them, who complained about the masks are great, the sculpt's wonderful, the paint job's awesome, but it's just too damn big. It's too big for even a big adult head with lots of hair. I know. But what I found is that most masks lately seem to be, they are designed, sculpted, moulded smaller, so they're better fits. Having said that, this is not one of those. This is still a big mask. I'll put it on again. I will. I'll do it for you. I like the way that if you look on the inside here, there's a bit of, I was just dabbling with a bit of the colours before on it, and then the hairspray, and it's run on my thumbnail now, so be careful of that as well. There's a bit of, if you look here, there's some melty plastic here, you know, like flaps of it. So maybe if you turned it inside out, it would look more realistic. Yeah. Hey, I wore my pizza to come and see you today. Look at that, my pizza hat. As you can see, it's quite big. You tuck this into your fabulous jersey, which is, by the way, you can see it's all ripped up. It's pre-ripped and scuffed. The neck is all ripped as well. I'm going to show you that properly. It's all ripped there, and of course, colour coordinated. This is the Hunting McGregor tartan. It's got the same sort of red and the same sort of green. I'm nothing if not coordinated, Nancy. But yeah, so look. It's a big mask. It is a bit, but you can, because you've got the big slit at the back, you can cinch that together. You can bring it in, tighten it around, a bit of makeup around your eyes, tuck it into your jersey, put your hat on. Where's my hat? Where's my gloves? Glove, I should say. Come to Freddy. So you have to colour around your eyes, but you know what you do. No, that doesn't look too bad, does it? If I tuck that in again, let's get that right. Bloody hell. See, I've only got one hand, haven't I, at the moment? But look at that. I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. This is God. No, I'm not making that mistake again. You've all seen me cut my finger wide open on camera. Look at that. See, the eyes do let it down because the mask is so big, you can see all the skin around the eyes. But look. Imagine me in the bath, the Kilt-Man Krueger coming up. So, there you go. Oh. Folks, that was sort of, I don't know, an update on the Freddy Krueger mask. One of the better masks out there, and how you can possibly improve masks. Not just for that, but for many other masks. I'll show you it again. Sharpie pens, Sharpies, and look at that. And you can get a gleam from putting hairspray or lacquer on it. So you can make this look amazing. You can work more and more on it. You can never stop. You could go into one of those things where you just never end with it. But it's better than that, isn't it? And all these bits here, I will obviously blend all that in and change that. I just wanted to try and keep that to show you really that or that. Come on now. Folks, I have been and always shall be the Kilt-Man Krueger of your nightmares. And I'm going to see you all later. 1, 2, Kilt, he's coming for you. And what other great Bern makeups are there in the movies, I hear you ask? Well, it just so happens I had compiled a little list which I neglected to go through earlier. We shall rectify that forthwith. So, I said the best one, I think, is Tom Savini with the Cropsey Maniac from The Burning, because that is exactly what he saw on Bern's wards and disfigurement units in hospitals. That's what he looked at. He studied it and he crafted it and created it perfectly. But we also have Wayne Toth did Halloween 4. Now the Bern for that was for Donald Pleasance, because Donald Pleasance and Michael Myers are incinerated at the end of Halloween 2, the official Halloween 2. So Halloween 4 follows on from that, but Michael Myers didn't die, even though he's been shot in both eyes, I shot him 6 times, you know, he's not human, and all that kind of stuff. And he's been completely on fire, but he still survived for Halloween 4 and that succession of movies. But Donald Pleasance as Dr. Sam Loomis has, well, it's pretty much that pepperoni pizza sort of thing on one side of his face, which throughout those sequels in that lamentable franchise, we all love Halloween, but come on, those sequels just got worse and worse and worse, as I've discussed so many times. But that makeup, it was a great makeup, but again, it wasn't realistic, but it did have a bit of striation of stretched skin and the look of, don't forget, Freddy Krueger would not have had reconstructive surgery. He would not have been changed. So, you know, although, really speaking, if he's going to have a nose and ears and a mouth and a chin, eye sockets and cheekbones, you know, that would have taken plastic surgery to have done all that. So, and most burn victims do get that sort of treatment eventually. Anyway, so Donald Pleasance would have had, that Sam Loomis would have had some kind of construction there to try to skin graft more on. Anyway, it was to begin. KNB, those guys I mentioned before, Howard Berger, Greg Nicotero, Robert Katzman, did House 3, or The Horror Show. And the great Brian James, the late great Brian James from Blade Runner, and Southern Comfort, and Tango and Cash, many movies. He plays the guy that's been sent to the electric chair, and you do see him on fire, his skin bubbling and melting. And it's a great effect, you know, and he is horribly scarred throughout the rest of the film. So that's another one for you. The great Dead and Buried. Oh wow, Dead and Buried. Welcome to Potter's Bluff. Going to be reviewing that very soon. A town lorded over by a warlock who happens to be a mortician, or rather a mortician who happens to be a warlock, and has learned how to bring the dead back to life. Why? Because he just loves making up dead people, and also being able to be in charge of a town and in control of it. So people that arrive in Potter's Bluff meet grisly demises at the hands of the residents, who don't even know that they're zombies, because they fall apart, but he will still, Albert Watson I think his name is, the actor, will go and reconstitute them and make them up again and send them out into the world using a bit of this, a bit of that, and a bit of black magic. I'll take my secret to the grave, he says. And he sends them out again to go and kill visitors, who will then, in a variety of horrible ways, so that he can put his craft to work and build these elaborate new faces for them. It's clever, it's grisly, but it's ridiculously clever as well, and I love it. But the first victim that we see, Freddy, and by the way, Robert Englund's in it as well. Robert Englund is in Dead and Buried, and a guy called Freddy, photographer, gets battered, stabbed, mutilated, and then set ablaze. And we see him in an upturned vehicle, and they think he's dead, and his head's hanging upside down. He's only got one eye that works. The rest of him was flambéed completely. And it's Stan Winston, the great Stan Winston, did the effects for this, and they were really good, really horrible, grisly, and his hair was all tough. It looked correct, but when they lean into the upturned vehicle, and his eye opens, and he goes, and you go, oh Jesus, he's alive. However, things get worse for him. He's lying there in a hospital bed, totally encased in bandages and plaster of Paris and all that kind of stuff. And only one eye is open, just one eye. And the sexy woman that lured him into being killed in the first place becomes a nurse with the biggest, most ghastly motherfucking hypodermic needle you've ever seen. And she goes, and you just see his eye, it's one eye go, because he can't move. Hiya, Freddy. Right into his eyeball with this fucking lance of a needle. God almighty. Great stuff. What else have we got? Well, if you go back, well, hang on, let's do some of the more recent stuff. Greg Canham did Mel Gibson for Man Without a Face, and because he's a burn victim, and it's subtle. He's obviously had skin grafts, and it's kind of like just like a hand. You can see some of the ink of him has got onto me there, but it's like almost like a handprint of stretched skin on one side of his face. It's very subtle. It's not grisly. It's not gruesome at all, but it's not a bad effect. You've got Giacomo Iovina. Yeah, I had to write that one down. Who did The English Patient? Of course, that was Ralph Fiennes, who is hideously burned, and that's a pretty decent makeup effect. It's quite shocking, you know. And then, really speaking, the best and most elaborate and perhaps most convincing burn and disfigurement effects were back in the 20s, the 30s and the 40s, because the people who were working in the industry then had been through 2 world wars and had seen, if not first hand during in the trenches or in combat, they would have seen victims of warfare coming back with terrible disfigurements, burns, mutilations, wounds, limbs missing, and they would do fledgling reconstitutive work. The early days of plastic surgery, of skin grafting would take place. They would wear elaborate masks. There's me talking about masks and all that sort of stuff. But they would wear genuine masks to try and hide their disfigurements so they could go about in public. And a lot of work was done with real life victims. So you take that into the film industry in Hollywood or even in the European cinema as well. They knew, the effects guys knew what they were doing, because the likes of Lon Chaney Sr., Man of a Thousand Faces, and his Phantom of the Opera, hideously scarred and burned and disfigured, he knew how to change his face to look like what stretched and disfigured skin, burns, ligaments and tissues would appear to look like, by pulling the nose up and pulling the skin away from the eyes, peeling the lips back. He knew what he was doing. So the likes of that early stuff is again very convincing. But what I do love is George Bow did House of Wax with Vincent Price, for Andre de Toth. I met Wayne Toth did the effects for Halloween 4, but Andre de Toth did the 3D, gorgeous 3D horror chiller House of Wax, 1953, I think it was, could be wrong there. Vincent Price, who is set up by his business associate for his House of Wax museum, and he's hideously burned, but wears a mask to try and disguise all of that. But when we see his face, his hideously disfigured face, all in 3D as well, oh my god, you're like, Jesus. And of course Vincent Price would play the abominable Dr. Phibes, again hideously disfigured and trying to get revenge for his wife who died, and he's trying to kill off all the surgeons who failed to save her life. But he wears elaborate disguises, but he's actually a hideous rictus, corpse beneath all this makeup, this mask. And again, Vincent Price, superb. And this is vintage effects work, not the animatronics and the prosthetics that you have, or you had from like the late 70s onwards, or the CGI that you've got now. But these were really people pulling their faces into really bizarre ways, collodium and glue and all sorts of stuff, to wires pulling the face back. You're suffering for your art, something chronic there. And of course, Andre de Toth, who directed House of Wax, it's one of the best 3D films you're ever going to see. Only have one eye, so he can never see 3D. He worked it all out via mathematics, measurements. He worked out where to put the cameras to get the depth of field and to get the effects. He worked it out mathematically. He could never see it, and it does turn out to be one of the best 3D experiences that you're ever going to have with a movie, beyond any shadow of a doubt. It's awesomely well done. So who we got there? Wayne Toth, KMB, Stan Winston, George Bow, Giacomo Iovina, Greg Canham, who did Man Without a Face, and Tom Savini still reigns supreme with Cropsey from The Burning. So folks, there's my top list for all the burn victims in movies. I've really got to get a new hobby, haven't I? Folks, gonna see you all later, because this has just been a flash in a pan. Alright?